Ellie Gage here with the Western Landowners Alliance. Kim, can you tell us where we're at, what we're going to do today?
Yeah, so we're in the Grand Run Valley, which is in Eastern Oregon, and we are going to set up some sheep night pen.
Great.
Yep.
And this is something you do regularly for your sheep?
Yep, we do it every day from the 1st of July until the 1st of October.
Great. So usually when they're turned out, when they're up in the forest?
Yeah, when the sheep are on open range, we night pen every single night. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it keeps them safe from predators and really helps the sheep herder sleep at night.
Yeah, I can imagine. So can you tell me a little more about where we are right now on this kind of agricultural field, what the sheep are doing here?
So every fall when we're done grazing the sheep on forest rangeland, we come to the Grand Run Valley to graze grass seed fields.
Oh,
so
cool.
Oregon is one of the top turf grass seed producers in the nation, and all of that grass seed aftermath needs to be grazed in order to cut down on burning every summer. So a lot of grass seed farmers contract sheep to come in the fall and graze this grass seed.
Cool.
So it's mutually beneficial for me and for the grass seed farmers.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So Kim, your family has been in Northeast Oregon for a couple generations anyway, right? Can you tell me a little more about what you do, what your livestock operation is up here?
Yeah, so I'm actually a 4th generation cattle and sheep rancher here in Eastern Oregon. We still run sheep and cattle on my great-grandfather's homestead that they started in the teens.
And we now have you on staff at Western Landowners Alliance as well. Which is amazing to have you on. Can you describe kind of what your position is at WLA?
So for WLA, I mostly do producer outreach. I talk to a lot of producers, sheep, cattle, small producers, large producers. If they're having problems with wolves, if they're having problems understanding policies, things like that, making sure that they know about upcoming events and WLA information. So I've actually really enjoyed it. I've gotten to meet a lot of really neat people and a lot of producers I didn't know before. So yeah. I've enjoyed it.
Great. Let's get going.
Let's do it. So we are going to set up just a small night pen. In the summer when we're putting up a full night pen for a full band of sheep, so around 1,000 head of ewes plus their lambs, we usually use between 5 or 6 rolls of this fencing, but we're not going to do that today. In the summer on normal ground that isn't super rocky, it usually takes about 20 minutes to set up.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah, once you get used to it, it's really, really easy.
Okay.
There are some challenges that can be presented, like if it's windy, rocky, you have problems with, the fence staying up and stuff, but it should be super simple to step in posts here. But I'm just going to kind of show you how we set this up out in the field.
Yeah, that's great.
So
that's great. And will you remind me where you order this product from? Because this is kind of ideal for what you're using it for.
Yeah, this fence has been great. We've been using Ken Cove positive negative electric fence since 2014. The positive negative fencing is really good for areas where there's a lot of dry grass, there's dry ground, and there's going to be a lot of interference. So That's kind of why we use that. A lot of people just use the regular white Premier fence, and that's fine, but we've had really good luck with this, so we're sticking with it.
Yeah, makes sense.
The agency actually bought us our first rolls of this fencing, and it has been great. We actually have not lost a sheep to nighttime predation since then. The downside is we've started losing sheep during the day.
Yeah.
The predators have just sort of changed their hours of operation, which is pretty crazy to me because some of those are really nocturnal predators. But it's a lot easier to find a band of sheep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon than it is at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
If they've been stampeded.
Yeah.
So it still definitely has its benefits. And I've herded sheep a lot. I've herded sheep in the forest and on sagebrush. So I've had quite a lot of experience both putting up the fence, using the fence, and with predators out in the field. And I don't sleep very well anyway, and this really helps me be able to relax a little bit at night knowing that the sheep are at least contained and somewhat safe.
Yeah.
So we've had wolves come and put pressure on the fence before at night, and the sheep stayed in it and held. Our sheep feel really safe in this, and they will run hot laps around the fence all night long if there's a lot of pressure on them. It causes them a ton of stress. There's other considerations like dust and ground damage and plant damage, and you always run the risk of those sheep piling up, getting scared, piling up, and smothering themselves. I know it happens in a lot of cases. It hasn't happened to us yet, so we're really lucky, but our sheep generally just start circling and run if they get scared in it. And we've never had a predator successfully snag something if their sheep are in the fence. So
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And generally, when you're out in the forest or on range, do you have, I know you run several guard dogs with your sheep. Are they in the pen or are they outside at night?
We have one, it kind of depends. All of the guard dogs kind of have their position in the guard dog hierarchy. So we have guard dogs that stay with the sheep. We have guard dogs that operate more as a satellite type guard dog, looking for threats, figuring that out, relaying back to the others what's going on. So we actually have one guard dog that loves to sleep in the pen with the sheep, and she's always in the sheep. She loads on the truck with the sheep. She sleeps in the sheep shed with the sheep when we're lambing.
Who's that?
Opal.
Yeah, that was my guess.
It was Opal. And she is never, ever, ever without the sheep. Yeah.
Sounds great. All right, we've got 2 rolls of fence sitting here. You want to start with this one, you said?
Yeah, let's start with this one. So when Wilbert takes down the fence, he has a pretty specific way that he rolls it up, so it's really easy to take apart when you get to the next camp.
Okay, so this is not new. This is fencing that's been used.
This was new this year. We started using this fencing in July. Sheep really love to chew on plastic. It's one of their favorite foods for some reason. And so if this fence is up, it needs to be hot. Otherwise, they will chew all of these little wires in two. And every once in a while, you'll see one that's been chewed. And the fencing rolls come with like repair kits. So you can repair it, but every time you do a repair, you're going to lose that much more electricity. So you want to prevent any kind of damage that's preventable from the sheep. These fencing rolls usually last 2 to 3 years. We can get out of them if they're handled properly. And when we're done with them, we use them at home to contain bummer lambs and stuff.
So that lasts longer than what I would have expected.
Yeah.
And Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife was the agency that initially bought this for you years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
So Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife has been really good to work with on our night penning in the forest. They have purchased us most of our night pen fencing. I've purchased it a couple of times just because I really see the value in it, but they've been great about keeping us supplied with fresh fence and offering it to the producers in our area.
Cool.
So we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start to unroll your thing and make sure that you don't have any hang-ups like that. Unroll that fence. What is going on here? All right. So the way I like to do it, and I know everyone probably does it differently, but this has worked really well for us, is you find the end, step that in, the rest. you'll feel a tug, so you know which post will be next. Step that in and just keep doing that. If the fence is a little bit loose initially, that's fine. You can fix it later. Just get it standing, and then work on the details afterwards.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this?
Sure.
Cool.
And are we trying to do like a semicircle here, I'm
Yeah,
guessing?
do a circle.
Yeah, I can see how it really matters how you roll this up. In between use. Could be a real
It
disaster.
turns into a real bird's nest if
Can't even imagine.
if you mess up. Yeah.
So much worse than Christmas lights.
Yes.
Let me know how my shape of the pen is looking
You're
here.
fine. You're doing great.
Really glad I wore my boots with the fur. Losing all credibility. Yeah, well, one of my dogs ate my muck boots and they haven't been replaced yet, so I should have just patched them up. Okay, so things like this are usually really hard for me. And I gotta say, this is pretty manageable.
I am going to put the rest of mine out. You just hold on for a sec.
Okay.
So when it comes time to close the circle, you don't want to be out here trying to make ends match up. So what I like to do is just take the last few and toss them out. And then you can just step in the posts.
So when you're using this, though, over the summer, you said you have 5 rolls that
Yes.
you're setting up? Okay. And you're not on like perfectly level farm fields, right?
Most of our camps are pretty level, but we do deal with a lot of rocks. It just takes a lot of practice. These are fairly sturdy posts, but I've found a lot of times, like if you're in a rocky area, you can usually find a spot that doesn't have a rock in it. So you might have like a real wiggly fence that's not a circle.
Yeah.
You know, who knows what shape it's going to be.
Yeah.
But as long as it's up and it's sound, it'll contain sheep. So
Yeah.
we just try to work with the topography and whatever we have to deal with. A lot of times we'll do it in a group of trees. The sheep will bed down underneath the trees. That's fine. Make sure there's no interference with limbs, and it's worked great.
Yeah. Cool.
So we've made a rough circle, and we're not quite ready to put sheep in it yet. We need to tie everything together.
Okay.
So we all know how electricity works. It does have to be connected. So all of these come with these handy dandy little connectors. And well, it seems like you could just go like that and that would work fine. we like to put them around like that and connect them.
Okay.
And that just makes that fence that much tighter, closer together. When you're doing this, you need to be really careful that your oranges aren't mixing with your greens. Otherwise, you will have an arc. And you can hear it snapping all night long. So.
All right. And there's two different places that we need to connect those to, right?
Yes.
This end and then where we started.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're going to use this side for the gate to let the sheep in.
Okay.
So I like to take these and open a good wide gate for the sheep to get in. Make sure that they can't get hung up in any fencing going in because they'll drag it everywhere.
Oh.
Until you have like lambs, especially trained to fences, to electric fences, there's a lot of repositioning a fence and putting it back up. Like there is a pretty long training period, especially with lambs. Ewes get really good about coming in and out. Sheep really like a routine, so they get used to going in and out of a fence twice a day, and it's not a big deal for them. But lambs, it usually takes quite a lot longer. So we've made a nice big open spot to drive the sheep in, and we'll go over here and connect a lot of times. If you are in a rocky area and you can't get these posts stepped in very well, we've taken just regular fiberglass electric fence posts, driven them a few feet out where we can find a spot to drive one, and then we use this plastic to like pull them out and keep the fence tight. And that's worked really, really well in some cases.
Great.
So just be creative.
Yeah. You could make a little rock jack around the base. That's kind of what I'm picturing having to do.
As long as you remember how electricity flows, don't use metal, don't touch metal to metal, and be really aware of fire danger and any kind of arc that you're getting. If you hear snapping, go find it, figure out what's going on, and fix it.
Yeah.
So now we're going to hook up the power and get this thing ready to put sheep in. So we really enjoy using these SpeedRite chargers. They've held up really, really well for us. We just buy them at our local farm store, but I'm sure find them online, whatever. The 3000 is probably not necessary for a night pen, but we're actually using this for our big pen that goes all the way around this grass seed circle, so we kind of needed a more aggressive charger, but the SpeedRite 1000's been really good just for night pen use. We use a 12-volt battery and a solar panel. In the summer, that keeps it charged really well. We don't have to like switch out batteries ever. You can buy those at Amazon for like $20. They're really easy to find now. I remember when everyone was first starting to use them on electric fence, like you were really nervous that people were going to steal them and stuff because they were super expensive. But I think I've bought 4 this year for various uses. So whatever kind of post you want to hang your charger on is fine. We've just got a fiberglass electric fence post here that it's hooked to. You have to remember to always use a ground rod. Any metal rod will work. Sometimes we just use a piece of like rebar. This is an actual ground rod that we purchased. It's just for fencing. They come long, short. The drier your ground is, the deeper you're going to want to drive the ground rod. Right now this ground is super wet. It's been raining for the last day or so, and we're not too worried about it. So this is a really long ground rod. Just hammer that in. Attach the ground wire to the ground rod. This is the hot wire. We attach it to the fence.
So you're clipping right to that metal clip that we put together. Okay.
So this metal clip should go to all of the orange wires throughout this entire fence. We come over here. We'll set this up. This does not have clips on it. This is a sheep farmer setup. I don't recommend doing it this way, but it works. You need to make sure that that gets plenty of sun. You hook your positive to the positive, the negative to the negative, and then you come over here and turn that on. There. Fence is hot. I hear a snap. I heard a snap, so I'm gonna come over here, and it looks like we have this grounding out on this little bit of wet grass. And it's only doing it intermittently, but we definitely want to fix that. So Ellie, if you will go shut the fence off.
Good.
And I mostly trust chargers to just turn them off, but definitely take one of the clips off the post. These fence chargers are good enough that when you get hit right, you can absolutely feel it through your entire body, and it kind of makes your heart hurt for like an hour. I think the problem here is that fence just needed to be tightened up a little.
Because the bottom, the black
is just a dead wire.
Yeah.
It has no electric running through it.
Okay.
So go throw that thing back on,
okay,
and we'll see if it is fixed.
You're back on.
Bam. No snapping. We fixed it. So, you know, every time that fence grounds out, it's just going to take a tiny bit more like zap power out of that fence. So you need to really make sure that you fix every ground spot in the fence. Also, when you're dealing with really dry grass, every one of those sparks could start a fire. So you need to be really mindful of, you know, where those grounded areas are and get them fixed. So I guess let's drive some sheep in here.
Awesome.
The fence off while we were getting the sheep. Now that the sheep are in the fence, we have the fence closed up, we have all circuits closed, and we're ready to go. We'll just go ahead and turn the fence back on. Just like that. Wait for it to go through its test sequence. We are fully functional and ready to go.
This is probably a little bigger than what you would have like for this number of sheep. Is this too much open space within the pen, or is this about right?
So you want enough open space when the sheep are in the pen for everyone to lie down comfortably.
Okay.
You want everybody to be able to spread out and lie down and be comfortable all night long. These sheep do have way too much room in here, and we didn't get all of the sheep. We only got a handful of them, so they're pretty nervous about going back to the others. So they are acting a little more agitated than they usually do. They're not really sure what we're doing here. So
right, understandably.
Yeah. So when we have all the ewes and all of the lambs and use 5 rows of fence, there's enough room for every sheep to lie down comfortably and move around and find their lambs throughout the night. So
okay,
without worrying about any lambs being laid on or.
So tell me more about what kind of sheep you're raising and what you use them for.
So we raise mostly fine wool white-faced sheep. So we have Rambouillet Merino type sheep. We sell that wool and we sell lambs. When we breed ewes, we breed them to both meat type rams and fine wool rams. So we have a terminal cross. Anything with a colored face goes into the meat system. Anything with a white face that's a ewe lamb we might keep for a replacement, we might not, depending on her wool quality.
I know in some areas, if you're on public land, you can't night pen. Is that right? Because there's concern about damage to the rangeland?
Yes. That's something that you need to be really aware of, is like, are those sheep being night penned in the same spot so many times that you're causing damage to sensitive areas, to any type of native grass plants, thin soils? Are you causing any erosion? Do you need to do some replanting after you leave that area? We always try to monitor our night penning areas like over the year, so we can tell like how we're impacting that area. Other things like we've talked about before that you need to be really concerned with is, this is a great tool if used properly, and it's going to be different for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different experience with what works for them for night penning. You need to be really careful that those sheep feel safe in their night pen so they don't pile up and smother each other. You need to be really careful, obviously, of sensitive rangeland areas and make sure that it's totally okay with your BLM Forest Service range person to put that fence up and use it. And there's a really good chance that you're just going to change the time of day that predation occurs. So this isn't like a silver bullet by any means. We still experience predation. We still experience pressure on this fence at night. We've had wolves come into camp at night when using the fence. The sheep were safe. It was fine. But, these are all things that you're going to have to just kind of feel out as you go along.
Yeah. And you have a herder who's with them full time.
Yeah. So our sheep have 24/7 supervision. So if something does go wrong, he can hopefully, get ahead of it, let someone know, get help, whatever. But if you're running in a range type situation like that, really make sure that your herder is comfortable putting the fence up and knows like how to put the fence up and be able to troubleshoot any problems with the fence or the sheep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there times or seasons or scenarios where this is not at all an option? Like, what about in snow?
We've actually used this in snow. Wind can be really hard. Wind can be a real challenge, but a lot of times in the winter when we're on these grass seed fields, we just put an electric fence around the entire field and turn the sheep loose in it, unless we have a really specific need for night penning. We don't use it a ton in the winter, both because they're in an electric fence, we have a guard dog with them, and then also there's usually not a space that's okay for night penning. Like, we can't put a night pen here.
Yeah. Because it would damage.
We would damage this field. And keeping farmers happy is kind of like the first rule of sheep herding in the winter. So, it's, we've used this both at home on the home place for temporary fencing to keep sheep safe at night, if we're having like wolf problems at home. We use it on the rangeland. Obviously, baby lambs can take a while to break. They want to just run through it, and that's just part of the, part of the process. Eventually, you can get them broke to it. They have to get zapped a couple of times, but they get really good about going in and out and won't run through it after a while. But you do spend a lot of time at the get-go putting fence up that sheep have torn out of the ground. So
yeah, so there's a training period.
Yeah,
getting the sheep used to
for the humans and the sheep.
Yeah, so but a lot of these same ewes are going to go out to the same Forest Service allotment or rangeland in the spring and summer, so they're pretty well trained. They get the night pen idea.
A lot of the little side hustle sheep are only in electric in the winter. Besides that, they're at home. These lambs have all been night penned all summer, so they know what they're doing.
Okay.
And there's just a handful of ewes in there that don't know. All of the old white-faced ewes are good to go. They know a night pen.
Cool.
Go in and out, and
cool.
Yeah, they're great.
So does your wool go to Pendleton?
No, our wool goes to Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we ship our wool to Salt Lake City, and it goes into a wool sale, and we actually haven't sold wool in a couple of years, along with a lot of other people. So
really?
Yeah, COVID kind of put the stop to the wool market pretty heavily.
Really?
Yeah. It's been a real challenge, but
so it's just sitting and waiting.
It's just sitting and waiting.
Storage.
That is the kind of cool thing about wool, is there's not an expiration, like there's not a hard and fast expiration date on it. So we could ship it anytime. Historically, most of our wool has gone to the U.S. military, and beyond that, I'm not really sure.
Well, that's cool, though.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
awesome. Well, this has been awesome, Kim. Thank you so much for explaining this to me and kind of showing us how you do this. It's just been great.
Thank you, Ellie.